Hello and welcome to a very wintry wellness wander. Today I'm going to share some beautiful scenes of the snow with you for you to enjoy from the comfort and warmth of your own home. There's something very pleasing about being in a garden on a day like today. Everything is calm and still and quiet, and you can really appreciate the forms and structures of the plants here in the garden. So this week we'll be taking in views rather than looking at plants and flowers in detail, and wanted to start with this calm scene across our lake, which really makes you stop and pause for a moment. And you can also really appreciate the form and structure of the rock garden. So many of the plants grown here will come from habitats where there's lots of snow during the winter months anyway. So these will certainly be feeling at home here with us today. And in contrast to the plants of the alpine world, the Mediterranean plants will feel much more alienated in this weather. But still you can admire and take in the forms and structures of the plants here. And in the middle of the screen, the exotic looking form of Vitex nigundo heterophylla set against this mad network of scaffolding that we still have on the glass houses. And as we zigzag our way around the garden, we're just stopping to admire this extraordinary form of Catalpa bignonioides, or the Indian bean tree, whose shape and structure really comes to the fore with this light covering of snow. But from here we can also look and admire the snow beneath the cedar and the giant redwoods which sit beside the main walk. And just looking to the south side of the main walk, across towards the cornelian cherries or cornus mass, you can see these lovely dusting of snow. And the form of Cedrus deodara in the centre of the picture here, really set against this bleak sky. And similarly, Sequoiadendron giganteum. And there's something really quite mesmerising about watching the snow gently falling to the ground on a day like today. And we're now stood in front of the terrace garden. Again, the shapes and forms of these extraordinary plants really comes to the fore in this weather. So here, the multi-stemmed cordyline is looking fantastic with this palm-like froth of leaf. And beside it, Muhlenbeckia astonii, this beautiful divaricate stems takes on a reddish purplish glow in this dark light. And the New Zealand flax, Phormium tanax, really looking wonderful and beginning to collect snow on these arching leaves. And in the background, ABA's Pinsapo, watching over everything across the terrace garden and the main lawn. And we're now beside Corrie Lawn and the cafe terrace, and you can see here a few winter flowers, particularly Sarcococca confusa, which is also filling the air with scent, looking wonderful. And here, Corylus avellana, or hazel, festooned with these beautiful catkins, just bringing a little hint of colour to this bleak scene today. There's still much to delight the senses here in the garden, and contrasts with snow and more forms here of Tilia henriana, which has been pruned to give this wonderful umbrella type cover in summer. But also pausing just to admire the view towards Corrie Lodge with Galanthus magnet and Helleborus argutifolius. And the snowdrops have their own almost antifreeze chemical inside them. So on a day such as today, most of the flowers will collapse to the floor, but as they warm up again, they will just leap up and stand to attention much more than they are now. And if you are visiting the garden, you can follow our snowdrop trail and learn more about these beautiful harbingers of spring. But you can really appreciate the forms and structures of the plants here in the dry garden. And it's quite a magical spot, so there are occasional visitors, both visitors and birds and insects here. So you may be lucky to see a robin. And just taking time to stop and admire the snow collecting on the cotton lavender here, something that it wouldn't have much of in its Mediterranean homeland. And the pillar forms of Taxus baccata here, standing out, sentinel at the entrance to the dry garden. And also the Alexandrian laurel, Danae racemosa, again just collecting more snow in this lovely scene. And everywhere does just seem calm and peaceful today. And we've left the dry garden and headed to the birch collection. And the birches look quite wonderful at any time of year, but today they really are coming into their own with their white stems really stand out in the landscape. And they are beautiful, graceful trees, which later on in the year will cast dapple shade over this scene. But here you can see Betula utilis jacquemontii really adding to this wonderful view across the garden. And as we head and look eastwards across the garden, there's a sort of blaze of colour in the foreground now, in front of the fairway, provided by the pheasant grass, Oryzopsis lesoniana. Whose intensity is added to here in the grass maze, where it's planted en masse to give this wonderful spiralling effect. Just beautiful today. And even the almost naked forms of the obelisks in the rose garden just add structure and form to the garden. And here you can just see snow catching on the arching, reaching limbs of Fraxinus ornus. Not lots, but just enough to add a little to this tree, which you'd often just walk by at this time of year. And from here we'll wander through the circadian rhythms, plantings, just really to admire the shape and form of this woven willow hurdle that forms a backdrop to this planting. And again, which is really pronounced on a day such as today. And from here we're going to head for a gentle stroll to finish this week's wander through the winter garden. And welcomed by the familiar sight and scent of Daphne Belua Jacqueline Postil. And again here today, colours and forms really do come to the fore. With the heads of teasels now catching almost blobs of snow at their peaks. And we've been revelling in the last few weeks in the winter garden, lit by winter sun. But the colours and forms are such here that even on a grey day like today, things really do leap out. So here Hamamelis Yelena just jumping to the fore with this blaze of russet coloured flower. And the mounds of grasses here, the Festuca, Elijah Blue, taking on a whole new form and appeal with this little dappling of snow. And although cold and fresh today, with an overcast sky, there's something still very, very pleasant to be said for taking a stroll through the garden and taking your time just to admire the snow as it gracefully falls to the floor and settles, but also the odd accent of colour and form that you'll find if you just look around you when you're wandering through on a day such as today. And here we are, ending with the russet colours of Acer griseum beside this blaze of colour afforded by Cornus sanguinea midwinter fire. I hope you've enjoyed this chilling wander, and we hope that you'll soon be brave enough to venture out and to have a look at what's around you on a day such as today. Thank you once again for joining me.